Hey y'all, how we doing? Another end of the year album list. It seems to be that season where artists drop their holiday season offerings and critics and reviewers scramble to squeeze the last few drops of music out of their Sony WH-1000X M5 headphones and into a top 10 list video. However, that is not what I will be doing today. I will be making 6 top 10 lists, and then I will be ranking those lists in order from least favorite list to most favorite list. It's a top 60 list. I don't know why I did that. Sorry about that. Yes, I listened to 60 albums this year. My apologies to the albums that I meant to listen to and didn't get around to listening to, and the ones that I totally did listen to and then forgot about until the time of editing this video.
Hi there, just wanted to jump in and add this segment. One, because I got a new microphone, and so now I can do this. Which is very exciting for me. Thank you to my sister and my soon-to-be brother-in-law. Merry Christmas, thank you. But I also wanted to highlight 2 very important albums that I didn't get around to listening to because they came out after I filmed this. And that would be Little Simz's No Thank You and SZA's SOS. Both of these I thought were really wonderful albums. Maybe I'll include them on a list I do next year because I love them both very, very much, and they very much deserve to be on the higher end of my top 60. But anyways,
I want to preface, there's also really no albums on this list that I hated. I try to listen to music that I think I will enjoy, so the lowest ranked aren't even particularly that bad, but for entertainment's sake, I will be judging them pretty harshly, so apologies in advance, I guess. I don't know. And that's where I find a glimpse of. Can you call it an album? Joji does what he does best, but worse this time. And as a Joji fan, I love a good helping of his woozy, lo-fi, sad boy musical style, and I even still like his In Tongues EP. And that's not even that good. But aside from really beautifully dreamy moments like Glimpse of Us and Die For You, it's just a lot of the same, and damn, it gets so boring. It's me, hi, I'm the problem. Midnights, more like Midnights. Sorry. I found this to be so severely underwhelming. I listened to this one with my friends, and how they put it is that all of the songs build to somewhere with no actual payoff or release. I mean, stylistically, I liked it. It reminded me a lot of Lorde and some of Taylor's previous work. But what in the hell is this Reputation B-side? Mom, we want to listen to Billie Eilish. Don't worry about it, kids. We have Billie Eilish at home. It's overall pretty boring, but Anti-Hero's nice, I guess. I wanted to like this album, but it is so sleepy. And honestly, I do like where all of the songs begin. I like that some of the beats kind of lull you into a sleep, except that the ideas never really go anywhere far enough to actually keep me awake. Good vibes. It definitely has its place in terms of like relaxing department store music. A decent takeoff, just absolutely no gas to actually fuel the plane. I didn't realize a new album could already sound so dated. And no, this isn't because she's leaning into an 80s vibe, but how this album ultimately just kind of sounds like last year's Future nostalgia, but not as polished, not as catchy, or fully complete as an album. There's some really fun moments on here, like Good Ones and Yuck, but I don't really find myself coming back to this one as much as her previous, more glitchy and experimental work. Some people really love this album, and I wish I liked it as much. Okay, also, check out this part of the song. Why is it so loud right there? But we know that's not what we're doing. The highlight highlight of this album is easily Conan's vocals. He tackles some really beautiful melodic peaks on this album. His delicate, airy quality is pretty. Unfortunately, the production and the songwriting are trying so hard to be Olivia Rodrigo's Sour that it ultimately just feels like a more melodramatic and less purposeful version. In terms of dramatic, young love, heartbreak music, I mean, it delivers. But what the fuck is this song doing here? It sounds like AJR discovered swear words and then made the most lukewarm song with them. The album serves a purpose, I don't know, it's whatever. Next album.
I'ma need a bigger bag for the cohort, trying to make $1 million.
You know, I like the parts of this album, but like as an album, I think Earl's sleepy delivery sounds a little bit hungrier, his wordplay and his flows feel a little bit sharper. The features from Z Loopers and Arm & Hammer are solid. I just don't think I'm as big of an Earl fan as a lot of other people are, and this is a pretty short and sparse album, especially compared to his previous works, which I know I definitely prefer. Got some cool moments, but it's not really sticking for me. Soccer Mommy feels like what you get when you distill all of the essential features of alternative indie rock into one act, which means it's a pleasant enough, dreamy, garage rock experience, but the melodic ideas and the vocal presence just feel a lot stronger on other albums within the same genre. Occasionally, the album delves into grungier, more devious sounding tracks, akin in vibe to recent Garbage. However, where these songs fit in the grand scheme, I'm not so sure. It's nice. Half the album is a blur, but it's nice. I wanna be a cowboy. Now take what I said about Soccer Mommy being distilled indie rock and say it now about alt indie pop, let's say in the same vein of like a Still Woozy. And that is exactly what this is. You might think that a summery feel-good album of shimmering synth pop that sounds like if Harry Styles took a tab of acid with Tame Impala, you'd think that'd be a good thing. And you'd be right. This isn't a bad album, but there's something very samey across it. Like the songs themselves sound really groovy and dense, but it's a lack of personality, a lack of distinctiveness, almost like this putting on a big show to disguise how little is actually going on. I enjoy it, but there's something really, I don't know, off-putting about it. She's gone. Black Party is back with a new series of sexy funk and soul grooves, and damn, it bangs. Now, all in all, nothing of note here. It's very similar to his last album, and his Frank Ocean influence it's very present. It also has a Childish Gambino feature at the tail end that caught me the fuck off guard. At the end of the day, this is a fucking album. Nothing wrong with that. I love music that makes you want to tear your clothes off as much as the next girl. Just nothing particularly captivating beyond the serene and glossy vibe of it all. She bloomed into blue. Off the heels of Stranger Things and the actual love child of two people I didn't even know had a child, it's Maya Hawke with a lovely fall-time album. I found her delivery to be delicate yet playful. Her songwriting is really sweet, it's warm-hearted, it's neatly crafted. I will say though that this is a 44-minute album that definitely feels like an hour. The second half really does start to feel kind of redundant in its sound, but there's enough sweetness and quiet charm to keep me coming back, but just probably only for the first leg. If you're above the age of 60 and you've ever uttered the phrase, "They don't make music like they used to," first of all, why are you watching my video? Not that you can't, it's totally fine, I'm just surprised. Second of all, take this album as proof that they do make music like they used to. Exactly like they used to. This album is a love letter to the likes of Marvin Gaye, the Commodores, Al Green. It's pure 60s, 70s soul bliss. It's I was born in the wrong generation personified. It's classy, it's sexy as hell, but in the pure-hearted way that only music from a jukebox can provide. It's delightful, but kind of forgettable. Nothing groundbreaking at all, just a wholesome throwback.
He's a poser when I got a little older.
This album is a weird one because while it has two real bangers with features from A$AP Rocky, Pusha T, and Tyler, A lot of it is really run-of-the-mill hip-hop tracks. Nigo does a good job adapting his style to each artist, but he does it so much so that the songs all feel so entirely unrelated. The whole thing is like, here's a Tyler song, here's a Lil Uzi song, oh, here's a Kid Cudi song.
It's like, it doesn't feel like a... Nope, that is...
Also, half of them all start the same way.
Yeah.
I want it. You know you don't have to start every song like that, right? Beyond the good features and some of the bangers, it's pretty skippable. This sounded like if Weezer were strictly a punk band. It's pretty fun. The core concept of it is kind of neat. It's an album being put together while the band creating it is falling apart. I like how loud and uncompromising the first half of the album is. I think the dramatic swells in the choruses have a nice emotional power to them. But for me, it kind of loses steam towards the middle. I think it could go a lot further in its sound and in its writing. As the title suggests, it could unravel a bit more. Now, here's the thing. This album isn't great at all, but I really like Rico Nasty. But there's a song on here where she is falling off of the beat so tragically. It's kind of beautiful. But I can't lie, I love her blend of electronic and punk and rap. I think the Tizo touchdown feature is very fitting. I think the first half of this album is pretty good. The second half, though, has such a lack of energy or interest or pizzazz. It's quite shocking in contrast. It's no Nightmare Vacation. I'll say that much. If you're feeling down, I just wanna make you happy. This is easily Harry's best work. It's really nothing crazy, though. I do think he's got a lot of charm in his delivery. His soft, summery aesthetic is nice, and some of these songs are pretty damn catchy. I like the influence of other Brit pop, particularly Sir Paul himself. Come back to this album, though, it's a lot less exciting than the first time I heard it. It is very pretty at times, so yeah, I don't know. It's a nice entry in Harry's discography. You know, I don't love this album, but I do like it somewhat. I mean, it's definitely catchy. I think Carly Rae Jepsen is single-handedly keeping la la la's and ooh oohs in pop music alive. She manages to sound both old school and yet timeless. There's a handful of songs that I really love on here, like Sideways and Talking to Yourself. I think the disco influence is really nice. A lot of it just doesn't stick as much. It's sparkly, it's very upbeat, it's worth a listen, so I don't know. I think I'll listen to it again.
She said, baby, keep me closely. Love it when you hold me. No.
This is the most laid-back Vince Staples album, and while it's definitely not my favorite, his flows are smooth and clean. The production is simple, but it's crisp and schwibey. It's a great album to skate to, I can vouch for that. Some pretty weak hooks on it overall, but it's also not trying to produce bangers. It's very sentimental, it's low-key, and Vince has total and complete control over his delivery, so I mean, it's a pretty good time.
I tried my best to be worth all your while.
A wonderful sophomore album from the guy who is now known for hating cameras. This album is darling. There's a boyish quality to it, be it his delivery, his lyrics, or how simplistically sweet this whole album is. It's a nice expansion of his soft bedroom rock from previous work, but it's more synthesized. There's a grander scope of production, a more spacey quality to the whole thing. There is a fair amount of inconsistency. Stylistically, it's cool to hear him grow, but I don't know if everything here lands. Definitely felt a little unfinished at times. Very cute, but a little bit lacking. This is a real interesting album. Bakar's blend of grunge rock and bedroom pop and hip hop is really fascinating. It's the delivery of King Cruel meets the aesthetic of like Saba or something. His vocals are soft but rough around the edges. They really contemplate the diverse sound on this album. It feels pretty scattered in its sound and its track list, and I'm not sure that all of the individual songs work well together, but his soft vocals married with his dreamy grunge guitar, solid synth production, and some really heartfelt lyrics make for a nice listen. Speaking of Saba, this album is all right. The way he can let off strings of steadily flowing bars, it feels like I'm floating on a cloud listening to this album. It's also a nice addition to this year's trend of rap albums about trauma, family, and coming to terms with fame and adulthood. It isn't the most intriguing album, especially in terms of production. It's not making a lot of magic, and there's one or two pretty awkward or clunky moments in his delivery or his ideas. It's not perfect, but it's got a few good things. Jessie Reyez has a sweet and sexy record of R&B jams. Her skill for making an earworm, particularly her grandiose and soul-pouring choruses, really shines bright on this. There's a certain aggression and an ugliness to her vocals that I really enjoy, although I could see some people being really put off by her nasal quality. I will say there are some moments on here where she is really straining. Kind of sounds like she's taking a poop. And also, her yeah ad-libs are really indulgent and fucking annoying. It may not be as compact or as nuanced as some other R&B projects this year, but it's got some groove, it's got some attitude, it's pretty good.
Best way in the worst way, that's on me. Best way.
I actually just saw this album live. And then I got COVID. The concert was one of the best shows I've ever seen, though. Duckwrth's personality, his suave attitude was just beaming on stage. And thankfully, on this album too. It's really short, but the songs on here are so upbeat, so sexy, just so full of energy and color. It's immensely danceable, and while some songs feel a little repetitive, especially that chorus in Sneaky, the whole thing is fun, production is lush. It could be longer, some songs could build a bit more. The lyrics are really nothing special, but look how hot he is, man. Come on. Now this is the sleepy R&B album that I was looking for. While not very dense in production, it's incredibly plippy, it's rhythmic and melodic as fuck. Her almost whisper quiet vocals just gently hold you and rock you like a little baby, while her falsetto just soars into the happy centers of my brain. If there's an issue with the album, it isn't doing too much. It's building off of a lot of already very popular dreamy R&B aesthetics, but its simplicity, I think, works to its benefit. It's sleepy, but in the way of being sung to sleep by some kind of angel. Sexy production. It's a little long, but it's great as is.
I'll keep you posted, I promise.
This album is 90s indie pop nostalgia straight to the dopamine receptors. Not a sound that we haven't heard before, but I love beabadoobee's approach to what reminds me of music only found in Disney Channel original movies. Maybe it's healing some internalized longing to rewatch Twitches or Stuck in the Suburbs or the weird one with Tyra Banks. Either way, there are some dull spots, but I found this very endearing to listen to.
Woke up feeling like a slut, yeah, I like that.
I really like the sound Shygirl's crafted for herself. Her delivery oozes confidence and style. Plus her production is popping off for the most part. It's a nice hot girl summer album. It's dance pop, it's sultry, it's fun, but there's also a shadowy darkness to it that's really enticing. Definitely not blowing me away. Some bops for sure. I might not revisit it as much, but it is very cool. Our second album from a Stranger Things vet, and this time, it's Joe Keery, with an unexpectedly slapping 80s throwback album. It's parts Bowie, it's Devo, it's Talking Heads, it's Peter Gabriel, all with Brett McKenzie-esque vocals. The influences are very clear, but wow, does this album have character. I think some of his ideas could definitely be grown upon, but his production style is already so bright and crisp, yet got a lot of wooziness to it, but there's definitely room to grow. I highly recommend this one, though. It's very infectious.
Do you feel like you?
This album is also 90s nostalgia core, in the vein of Alanis Morissette, Dido, a hint of Imogene Heap. She's definitely got the attitude and the swagger of a mid-90s femme pop icon, and this album just speaks to that. There are gorgeous displays of heartbreak on this album, paired with rich instrumentals, packed with layers of electric guitars, tasteful use of synths, and a real glowing feeling to it all. No, not all the songs hit super strongly for me, but it's a very commendable body of work. Okay, this one took some adjustment. I'm still not entirely on board with Blade's shaky, timid vocal style, but this album is unlike anything I've ever heard. It's Owl City if he drank a bottle of Sprite brimming with LSD. Owl City if he drank lean. It's like wizards from the planet Disco Unicorn Gumball shit came to me in a dream and conjured up magical visions beyond my comprehension. It's weird. For sure. Not sure if I love it, but I do keep returning to it just so I can remind myself that it's even real. Don't pay attention to the lyrics. Ignore there are even lyrics. Because if you let yourself sink into this album like a Tempur-Pedic, the sounds on this are angelic, they're badass, they just scratch the good auto-tune itch. I've seen people post that they're looking for artists that scratch the same itch as Kanye, and aren't Kanye, and this is full of it. Numerous times listening to this, I was like, is this 808s? Is this Blood on the Leaves? Is this actually Kanye? There's a couple of meh spots in the track listing. The lyrics are all pretty flat, but the cocoon of electronics, of soul-shaking bass, and the symphonic journeys that she takes us on really make this album worthwhile. Its highest moments are in its ballads. Rosalia's just absolutely superb vocal talent dominates this album, and it's chock full of glitzy, groovy, really enthralling production. Its low points, I'd say, are that it's a little messy in terms of the songs or complete sonic ideas. I think she could have gone a lot further with its occasional dips into hyperpop, but again, her voice is so crystal clear and shimmering. I honestly could have listened to just a full hour of ballads and I would have been fine. I think the combo of hyperpop and her ballads is a little bit disjointed, but ultimately I like it a lot. It's beats. Just beats. Oops, all beats. This is gonna go down as my favorite album to play at a barbecue with friends. It's casual, it's classy, it's vibey as a motherfucker. It is what good vibes are made of. It's also pretty diverse. He manages to stay within the pocket of chill, but really does fully explore everything within that. The sound is consistent across, but each song approaches to the central joy and skip of this album in a really unique way. Only reason it's lower on here is I think it could maybe go a little more out of the pocket, but that's just me. Good beats, man, good beats. I wasn't really digging this one when I first heard it, but coming back to it, it's got a lot more highs than I remembered. It does possess 3 of the liveliest songs about heartbreak, and they go off. And while the quieter moments aren't as exciting, she is mining the Kate Bush Cocteau twin Enya gold mine like a champ. It's beautiful, it's sad, it's bright, but very moody. I like that. After seeing like 4 people make TikToks recreating Westside Gunn's boo 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 boo, hey yo, skip like Bayless, book a flight to Uranus. I knew I had to listen to this album, and wow, it's cool as hell. Not only do I love Westside Gunn's loose and grimy delivery, but it is the Avengers on here. DJ Drama says it himself, and he is not joking. This might be the most features I've ever heard on an album, and maybe the production isn't super out there, but it's a really exciting array of hip-hop legends just doing what they do best. Bars after bars after bars after bars after bars after bars.
And daddy's granddaddy was Poe. First nigga in my family with you.
Earth Gang has such an infectious energy. The two of them play off of each other so well, and I think incorporate a decent selection of features on here. This album is full of woozy, wavy production with some real ass-kicking bass and snare. Ultimately, they make a lot of magic together. Maybe it doesn't have a consistent momentum. Some parts of it feel a tad slow and kind of cut the energy, but damn, this one's pretty fun. I I swear, I listened to this in the background like 5 different times. Only recently did I actually dedicate some time to listen to it, and it's incredible. It's a fuzzy, soft, psychedelic rock and funk album. It's a nice day on the coast. It's a pleasant breeze. It's the cross-section of Wolfpack, Unknown Mortal Orchestra, and like a nice umbrella. Anybody can listen to this album and like it. It has a lot of the same energy as Louis, but with a little more stank and a sweet vocal lead. It's casual listening at its finest.
Get on my mind, 'cause I got the time to wait.
And I present to you the most sensual R&B album this year. Fans of Jasmine Sullivan's Hoe Tales, I think, will like this. There's an almost luxurious sexiness to it. Ari Lennox eats every song on here right the heck up. This album is the trials and tribulations of sex and romance. And you know, it's not my favorite, but it's very consistent. It has a great narrative and just very, very lush all the way around. God, I love this album. I know people have been stripping 80s music to its bone for a while now, but nothing that's quite as successful in its goal as this. Dawn FM to The Weeknd is Silk Sonic to Bruno Mars. Once you hear his voice in a whole other era of disco and dance music, it just freaking clicks. The choruses on here are perfect. His vocal skill fits so well with the melodrama of 80s electronic dance music, and his production adapts perfectly. I just think this album is so sparkly and pretty and energetic. I just really dig this, and I'm not even a big Weeknd fan. Okay, that Lil Wayne verse does kinda suck though. Anyways. Barrie is an undiscovered little rock star, one of my favorite indie pop installments of the year, and while admittedly this is kind of a messy project, I don't know if everything gels together, but it seems that she's playing with a lot of acoustic style as well as some very moody synth passages. Maybe not a great whole, but every track on here I think is gorgeous in its simplicity and yet its scope. It improves upon the sound of Soccer Mommy's album, but indulging in the quiet a little bit more. I like this album quite a freaking lot. It is, 'tis very pretty. For being a shitpost of an album, the ideas on here are wild. It's all over the place. The bars are absurd. I mean, just look at the song titles. It sounds like a bunch of friends making meme music, and it's good. They root for me. I'm follicle. That kind of goes. It's comedy rap that doesn't try to be clever. It doesn't take itself seriously at all, and it allows the production to just go all out. Clear influences from 100 Gex, JPEG Mafia, Charli XCX, Dev Lemons' use of autotune with an overly exaggerated British accent. It's perfect, and Nick manages to have some pretty good flow. He really sounds so left field for a rap album, but somehow or another, they really make it work. I think Julia Jacqueline is probably my favorite traditional singer-songwriter musician working today. Her writing manages to be easy to follow while still tackling incredibly specific feelings within loss, within love, and fear of honesty. She explores wanting to love someone so fully when ultimately there's still so much that you'll never get to understand about another person. The production has kindly expanded from her last album. It's got a lot more space. I really love the orchestral swells in the second half of a lot of the songs, but that doesn't keep her from holding a very strong intimacy across the track list, particularly her soft vocal delivery just coming straight from the heart. It's beautiful. Go listen to it. It's beautiful.
This in my pocket, just in case a nigga talking crazy.
Another throwback album, but this time it's to 90s era hip hop. The likes of Remy Ma, Lil Kim, Missy Elliott. This album goes so hard. Leikeli's delivery is just cold as fucking ice. It's as if she's holding herself back because if she didn't, she'd fucking kill you. And the production is equally as strong. Not a ton of layers of sound, but ultimately all she really needs is a kicking beat, some really punchy bass, and she just takes off. Everything on here delivers. Confidence and boldness just oozes from every pore of this album. It's so sick.
Shell tacos, Blanco on the rock store, woke niggas on my cock though.
So it's not actually a Brockhampton album. I mean, it is a Kevin Abstract project, and that's because he's literally the only member of Brockhampton featured. That being said, I think this is a really open-hearted love letter and kind of an apology to the band for their falling out. He details things about the group that I don't feel like I should be hearing. Stylistically, Kevin taps into the group's sound pretty well. The production has a foot in the old and a foot in the new. It's very bold, very brash. His verses veer from these poppy, riotous celebrations to these stripped-back pieces exploring his anger and his hurt as he reaches the end of this era. And an era they have had. It's quite the impressive string of albums. For old fans, even people who lost interest amidst their controversy, this album's incredibly touching.
Ain't no way, it's the way I'm living out my final days. I feel like Jay.
Denzel Curry pulls his sound back from his usual aggressive tones and makes a fun and exciting album that talks about self-reflection and positive growth. Contrary to his previous work, the bangers on this are a lot more bright and upbeat, and his lyrical skill is just perfectly honed in. He's rapping from a place of self-confidence and pride, and he just sounds more at ease than ever. It doesn't mean there aren't some really kick-ass moments on here. It features my favorite crossover of artists on a song in Ain't No Way. The Rico Nasty verses. It's fucking something. But I love this album. He's expressing a lot of heart in the face of tumultuous times and a fast life. I love it. This album is loud, aggressive, full of untapped feminine rage, and it's got a song called Baby I Got an Abortion, so yeah, it rocks. I have a hard time getting into the UK grunge punk rock sound, but this had me along for the entire freaking ride. It's pretty epic and unrelenting in its energy. Plus, it's got a great, almost smarmy vocal lead that just feels perfectly crafted and controlled despite how unhinged the full sound of it is. This album kicks ass front to back and really drives it the fuck home. This is the most fun I have had listening to an album all year. Its format of short bursts of song are hilarious and playful. The energy is equally as furious as the last album I talked about, but this time with just a fun poppy twist. It's uncompromising in its sound, throwing just a barrage of fast drum, shredding guitar, and these shouted group vocals directly at the listener. It's entertaining from start to finish. It's short, but it packs so much in its 20 minutes, I don't think I could survive anymore.
Take off the fake deep, take off the fake woke, take off the I'm broke, I care. Take it off.
Oh, well, look at this. Another introspective rap album. I think Kendrick's wordplay here is some of his best work since T-Pab. This album packs a lot of punches, emotional, personal punches. While maybe not as consistent as his other work, the highlights here are freaking wow. We Cry Together is still one of the craziest duet songs that I have heard in like ever. The bops are all there, and when this album gets personal, yeah, it goes to some pretty dark places, and I love it for that. No bangers on here like you might expect, but it's beautiful all the same. This album is straight heat from start to frickin' finish. It's a progressive heavy metal math rock bash, and it kicks ass, and it just keeps on kicking. My dad described the vocals as Peter Frampton on a bad day. Honestly, I have absolutely no idea what he's saying on this album at any moment, but the rhythms and the raging lead guitars really just speak for themselves. It's got supercharged fuel that just kicks it into high gear when required, which is the entire thing, and it never stops. It rages on with a fury of epic proportions, and wowee do I love how heavy this album is. Magnifique. So if Meatloaf wrote Bat Out of Hell, Black Midi just wrote the bat going right back into hell. It's a nutty display of math rock, the theatrics of a Rocky Horror Picture Show, and jazz. The vocals definitely took some getting used to, but there's a classiness to it that's only suitable for the devil. It really does feel like you're traveling straight into Satan's butthole. You're just being pulled further and further into this disastrous nightmare of cascading piano and drums and just some sweet, sweet guitar licks. It's a little hard to get into, but boy does it create an environment. Holy shit, this album. My jaw was on the floor after listening to this one. It's the sonic sci-fi odyssey of a lifetime. Each song is a star-studded roller coaster ride that takes you on these unimaginable electronic turns, sometimes these beautiful and grandiose soundscapes of otherworldly beauty, and sometimes shakingly scary moments that feel like you're hurtling towards the heart of a black hole. I implore you, take this journey for yourself. You may really enjoy it, because it rattled my soul. I honestly have difficulty explaining the degrees that this album goes to, because just what the fuck. This album is rap ear candy. Freddie Gibbs has a flow that can only really be described as delicious. It's rich, it's deep, it's buttery. Like, he is spitting on this album, and he nearly outshines every single feature that he has. It feels very luxurious, the production is clean, the integration of harps across the runtime adds a nice luscious flair, and the hooks are hooks. The Gold Chains chorus is one of my favorite things that I've heard all year. His bars pop, the production pops, and I just love it more and more and more every time I listen to it. I wanna drop my arms and take your arms and walk you to the show. What a delightful album this is. And I mean that. You wouldn't expect an hour-and-a-half long, quiet folk/country album to be so enthralling, but I didn't find a dull moment on here. They prove how much power lies in simplicity by stringing together a series of the catchiest campfire melodies I have ever heard, while also retaining a lot of diversity. There are moments of dreamy bedroom pop rock that call to mind Men I Trust. There are moments of honky-tonk yeehaw country. But most of all, this album is like a warm hug. The cover describes it perfectly. A group of animal friends around a campfire, enjoying each other's company and good music. I have a hard time pinpointing this album. I would lean to say that it's an overtly experimental R&B project, but it is infused with so much folk and bedroom pop and hip-hop and psychedelic rock. It's a trippy, bumping, and I hate to use the word again, but a sexy project with such an eloquent pizzazz. My ears are dazzled every time that I listen. And anytime I start to think that it's getting hollow or dull, I listen to it again and just find so much more sparkle in every track. In simplest terms, this is music that hot girls smoke weed to. Next time you're having a smoke sesh with the girlies, put this on. Thank me later. Hands down, the smoothest rap project this year. Nay, the last 2 years. Smino not only has endlessly clever bars, but his attitude across the track list is so much fun. His approach to hooks is so imaginative and left field without detracting from the already chill vibe of every song. Even the bangers on here don't go so hard as to take away from the relaxation of the album. Not to mention amazing integration of features. J. Cole, Doechii, and Lil Uzi Vert, to name a few, all sound perfectly placed. The whole thing is packed with groovy soul licks, bouncy beats, gorgeous melodies. The whole thing is such a vibe. I know I use that word a lot. I know we all use that word a little too much, but this album is just such a vibe. Everybody wanna come and hang with the stars. Pinky ring chain, bling bling in the car. I've seen a lot of people list this as the best rap album of the year. They're right. He is seamlessly switching up his flow every 10 seconds. He's complementing and amplifying every feature he has. He's playing with tone across the runtime. It's just... It's got bangers, it's got slow grooves, it's got these charming background vocals decorating every song. It's got beautiful lyrics about family, about fame, and the relationship between the two. He is just an endless spitting machine on this thing. It's fucking incredible. Give this a listen. I implore you, give it a listen. This album reminds me of that one Panic album that isn't a Panic album, but quieter and a lot sadder. The blend of horns, strings, guitar, and piano are perfectly balanced. The vocals are aching and tragic, and the lyrics even more so. The greatest moments on this album are when all of those features play off of each other, continuously rising in energy and volume until the track breaks into this cacophonous symphony of raw emotion and unrelenting orchestration. Between these high points, there are slower, more somber tracks to kind of even out the intensity, but it's those musical swells that bring me to tears when I listen to this, and it makes for some of the greatest music I've ever heard. This album is heartbreak in musical form. Painful, agonizing heartbreak. This is the dance party of the century, baby. I am still stunned how clean the transitions between songs are. It's one of those albums that once I play I'm That Girl, oops, looks like I've got to listen to the whole album. Sorry, I don't make the rules. There isn't a single dull moment on here. Every song dazzles. Her energy is magnetic. It's full of chic and power of the divine. It stretches across decades in style, and within its hour-long runtime, never once ceases to make me shake my ass. I feel like someone could play this entire album at a dance club and nobody would even notice or care, really. It's so infectious. It is so groovy. I'm not even a huge Beyoncé fan. Let me finish. But it is kind of stupid how much I like this album. I didn't mean to haunt you. Are you sure about that, bud? As the title would suggest, this is the most haunting album of the year. Coming from the perspective of someone who's just died and is now witnessing the lives of his loved ones unfold below him, this album is peaceful in the most depressing way possible. It's beautiful in the scariest way possible. It is ghostly as shit. It's SoundCloud rap, making love with John Bryan's Eternal Sunshine score and giving birth to Quadeca? This will probably be a lot of people's album of the year, and I can't blame them. It is just that good. Plus, maybe my favorite Danny Brown feature? Huh? Listen to this if you want to be depressed. Then listen to Smino as a chaser. I've probably used the word lush too many times in this video, but damn it, this album is lush as fuck. This gives you the same elevated feeling as Space Song, but for an entire hour and a half. If Hellfire is a spiral into hell, then this is the steady ascension to the heavens. The glimmering and expansive production is the most exquisite that I've heard on any Beach House album. The vocals are dreamy yet kind of haunting. The synth work is glittery. The mix is perfect. Another hour and a half long project that sails from song to song. It's easy to play in the background and enjoy the sunshine that this album exudes, but if you really sit and sink into each song, you will not be disappointed. I won't lie, I thought this would be my number one this year, but I mean, we'll get to that. Ever since I heard this back in February, I've been hooked. FKA Twigs' hypnotic style, her crystalline vocals, and her visceral production are all things that really blew me away on Magdalene. This takes all the same virtues but puts them on a radio-friendly, hooky, dance pop, hot girl summer, bass boosted, ass shaking, earthquaking, electrifying Charli XCX kin joyride. Her approach to dance and glitch pop are gorgeously mixed with her divinely feminine persona. The contrast of these rapid, booming, very riveting beats against her delivery just floating on top of it all. It's like a glimmer of an angel, but with a captivating edge running through it all. It's also infused with so much summertime sexiness. It is my pick for Hot Girl Summer Album of the year. Potentially the decade. This album fucking kills. Fittingly released on Halloween, Backxwash is here with her final installment of this trilogy of albums, and of the three, it's louder, it's bolder, it's scarier, it's catchier. It is the most terrifying and thrilling album that I have heard this year. Her notable blend of rap and metal is just pulled off with expertise. This definitely won't be for everyone. There's intensely shrill moments on this album, whether it's the screaming hook on Niyama or the absolutely unhinged chorus of Nafwidi. It's an abrasive experience. Her industrial beats are cold and spooky. Her inclusion of classical chorus passages give the entire album a cinematic quality that really sells the experience. And how can I even discuss this without talking about her roaring delivery? Her ferocious growl on the project is captivating and emotionally heart-wrenching. Vocally, she is holding nothing back. Her lyrical content is as biting as always. It's devilish and crushing. She confronts drug abuse, death, grief, PTSD, and just the unmatched rage and power of a queer black trans woman fighting against oppressive forces. It is a powerhouse of an album, and it shook me to my core. Shook me like a little fucking apple tree. Uh-oh, all the apples fell off because this album is insane. It's cold yet fiery, it's thrilling, it's untamed. Absolutely nothing I can't praise on this album. It stunned me the first time I heard it, and it continues to stun me every time I have heard it since. Well, I guess that's it. 60 albums, baby. 60 freaking albums. That didn't take long at all. I hope you enjoyed my ranking. If you would please post your ranking in the comments. Post your top 10 or your top 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 even. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, sweet dreams. Good night.